Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Equine Edge Weekend Preview Show. Every week, most of the time, we take some days off, but we cover all the best stakes races every weekend. We have the Preakness, we got the Black-Eyed Susan. We're going to cover both days, just all Pimlico. That's what we're covering. That's it, 16 races. Oldie and Scotty couldn't join me, so I said, well, I'm just going to go find great handicappers. So that's what we're going to do tonight. There's 5 of them. First, I got Alfredo from Hippica TV. He covers Pimlico, Gulfstream Park, Santa Anita. How are you doing, brother? I'm glad to have you here.
Hey, Justin. Hello, guys. Well, thanks for having me here. Thanks for the words. Maybe too too much for any handicapper. And let's do the best job doing this handicapping. I was thinking you were saying that we take Sundays off, but Sundays off of the racing because we are working the rest of the time.
It's
So
so
we are
true.
working all the time, basically.
Hey, I totally get it. A lot of people here, and thanks everybody for being here. Scrap, everybody who always joins in, Alfredo, and most people know I'm like coaching baseball at my day job, and then it's like you fit in horse racing, right? And I mean, you do a lot for racing though, so I love it, and we're glad to have you.
Well, we are doing our best. By the way, we are broadcasting tomorrow the 14 races of Pimlico, including the Black Eye Susan, and we are going to broadcast Saturday. We can put the Preakness live. We need to put it with a bit delay of 2 minutes, but we will broadcast the Preakness as well.
That's awesome that they let you do that, even if it's delayed. That's cool to see.
Yes, it's going to be in Spanish, but maybe you can you can put mute if you don't like it.
We need to with that going edge. We always, no, it's great. All right, we we usually we get to show Pimlico usually, which is awesome, and that's why we love the relationship with Equine Edge, Alfredo. So we get to show a lot of those tracks, and we get lucky to be able to show this. So you and I are gonna start on Friday. We'll talk before you go on Black-Eyed Susan and or the Preakness, but we're gonna start with stakes race. A stakes race, 9 furlongs, the Allaire DuPont Distaff Stakes. You have Candied here, Alfredo, big favorite. Is she gonna be a lock?
It's likely a lock. There is a lot of speed here. The 2 has a speed. The number 1 has a speed. The number 6 has a speed. From all that speed, I believe the number 6 maybe is the main contender. But as you see, the SOR of Candid is very high. She's also the top pedigree of the race. She has no victories at the distance, but she has run well. I believe this group is relatively weak for her. So she has no excuses here. She needs to see the behind the speed, but she needs to be close. As we all know very well, Pimlico is a speed bias track.
Yeah. And you can see Alfredo, like you said, where there looked to be a lot of speed, and she has the good chance. The way at Equine Edge we have the race sim, and you can see all that speed that you talked about. And then you can see she kind of assists the trip. To your point, she's been facing way tougher, Alfredo. She's just coming from grade 1, grade 3, all of them. Not winning, but that's a big drop from a strength of race from 80 to 72. It's 8 points. So you can see the picks, Alfredo, there. I ended up landing on the 6. Flavian Pratt riding for Brissett, if you're going to upset Candied, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Can you help me?
I think it's French Peg Noir, but let me find around to confirm. I believe it's French Peg Noir. Peg Noir.
I
Yes, I think.
think close. So Pengwa, you
Oh
know,
my God.
the GSR Alfredo goes to 77. It's the top number.
It means a bathrobe.
What's it mean?
A bathrobe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, bathrobe. And the
That,
pronunciation is pig noir. Pig noir.
like the wine noir.
Very similar.
Hmm. Well, I, 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 I thought that she also maybe, you have Pratt riding here. I mean, he does really well with Brissett. So I thought she might be able to upset Alfredo. But I agree with you on Candide. I thought she could be really difficult. It's between those two for me. So that's where I landed there in race 8.
Yes, I have 3-6. And for the exotics, I have the number 2. And I put the number 8 that is running very well. But for the exotics, I believe 3. And as you said, the number 6 is the main contender that she has.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to race number 9. The Hilltop Stakes. I know that there's going to be not great weather, Alfredo. So what's the expectation here on the turf tomorrow?
I imagine they are going to try to run the stage races on turf, but today the track was very sloppy. Uh, probably they try to run the graded stakes on turf if they have any, and the other races are going to be off the turf probably, and they will try to run every race on turf on Saturday because it's the last day of Pimlico before the reconstruction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is what
Okay.
I'm seeing. They,
Well,
they have run at Pimlico with the turf yielding in previous years. I remember that, but I believe that maybe tomorrow they are putting some races of the turf.
all right. What was your thought here? Either I did have a dirt horse here, but where'd you land on the turf and or dirt?
Well, on turf, I like a White Rocks. It's my top pick in this race. 6-1 in the morning line. She has some tactical speed. The GSR is very good. I think maybe she's the most balanced runner in the race, and De La Cour is very effective at Maryland. So I like her. I like her a lot, White Rocks. And the number 2, Play with Fire, is my second pick here. Brendan Walsh with Flavien Prat. I believe Flavien Prat is going to be running from um, out of the speed, and he will try to get the victory in the final stretch. I believe that. And Flavien Prat he's very effective when he rides at Maryland. So I believe 7-2 if they run on turf. I didn't handicap this race on dirt, but for example, the number 2 has a decent race on dirt, and the number 7 is Frosted. The GSR drops a bit, I believe, but
I think
doesn't drop too
the
much.
5 I thought would be tough on dirt, Alfredo, for Brittany Russell, but
Oh yes, of course, she's undefeated on dirt.
yeah. So, but I think that we'll talk about that maybe at the end of the race. Hopefully, they stay on turf for the Hilltop. In my so it's funny. I have the 2 on top, Alfredo. So, you already kind of made my case. There's we'll talk about the 2, but there's a lot of speed here, Alfredo, with Mr. Governor right, and the 4 looks to be cheap. So. And the 3 horse, me Governor, this horse looks to be a sprinter, Alfredo. So, I mean, maybe he takes him a long way, but I didn't see the speed holding. I thought this race could set up, and Play with Fire was where I landed. I mean, cuts back to 8. You have Flavien Prat. has been facing a little bit easier, but I thought could improve here. It comes out of Fairgrounds and raced at Keeneland for Brennan Walsh. He's obviously been doing really well. Most people know at this point. And, Pratt, I think Alfredo, I didn't know he rides well in Maryland, but now I like it even better. So that's where I landed on top was the 2.
Well, I mentioned Pratt because Pratt has, has ridden, but in a few occasions, but he's very patient there, and it works beautifully. Especially if the turf is soft or is yielding, he is going to be patient enough to move the horse in the right moment, and that is going to be key in these races, at least on turf. If they keep some races on turf, the 2, I agree with you. You need to use the 2, and I put the White Rocks the 7. Both are 6-1 in the money line, so those are a good price place in the race.
Yeah, you can see with Equinedge, the 7 Alfredo stop win %. So you're gonna get a good price on the 7, I would think. The Exacta, if you get the 3 Alfredo out of the Exacta, it could pay really well. Sometimes with Equinedge, you can just kind of cut this horse, and then what happens, right? So I thought that the 1, even Princess Attitude, you can see the top Scotty pick Alfredo had a shot here, but just broke the maiden, and we talk a lot about that on the show. That's why I liked Underneath with Louis. I think that can run well for Victoria Oliver, and Saya's been riding great. I don't think can win, but that was the exotic play for me, was the 1, at a price, and I think you could get the good Exacta, where you like the 2 or the 7 or the 1. So it's a good betting race if they stay on the turf.
Yes, of course. Oh, well, Princess Attitude she's a Frankel. That is the main asset that she has. So you can use her as well. I didn't have her in the picks, but she has a good chance. She struggles a lot to got her first victory.
Yeah. And I also thought that the 6 maybe in the try for Grand Motion, Rad's riding. Again, I didn't. This would have been my 3rd pick, Alfredo, but I was 2 on 6. You're 7-2.
7-2-3-5 are my picks.
All right. And then I did think Complexity Jane, if it comes off the turf, I thought that for Brittany Russell, this horse looks really tough. You're going to see a bunch of horses scratch off the turf, obviously. So, but if it's on the dirt, that's who I thought. So, all right, Alfredo, we got at least we got one more here that you're going to hang around for. The Miss Preakness, race number 10, going 6 furlongs on the dirt.
Yes, there is a lot of speed here. Stunner is one of the most fastest horses in the field. Maybe she is going to be the favorite of the race. The number 12, she's one of the top sort of the race, but she's coming from 8.5 furlongs the last 3 races of her. But she won a stakes race at Churchill Downs running short distances, so she's able to adapt at the distance. So Podcast with a Twist could run well here. Obviously, she needs to rally earlier. She needs to do a rally earlier to be deciding the race. The horse that I like most is Echo Sound, the number 8. That is my top pick. She is not running since November, but before that, she was running extremely well. Luis Saez knows her well, so in the last time out, she didn't have a good break, and anyway, she closed and finished second. So she's very versatile. I believe the number 8 is the horse to win to beat here.
So we agree, Alfredo. That's amazing. I 100% agree with you on Echo Sound. Not in the picks, but one missed effort there at 6.5, and Churchill even gets back to 6, which is going to be great. Gets off the rail. I mean, to your point, you can see there broke 7th. I mean, doesn't always necessarily break the best, but I think can be okay. there's a ton of speed, like you said. Stunner, the source could just be the fastest, like you said, Alfredo. But I thought the Echo Sound could like sit the trip here with all that speed. And you got Louis Saez. So I totally agree with you on Echo Sound.
See, I prefer her because I saw Stunner running here at Gulfstream, and she is good, but good enough to win this race over Echo Sound. I don't know. She's not bad, but I prefer the 8. The 6, because she has a speed, is my second pick, and the 12 that I mentioned, Boca with a twist, because she's going to close, I believe. The horse to beat is Echo Sound.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then I did think that probably more in the I thought that Family had a shot, Alfredo, the first time Safi, but I'm not sure to win. But that's where I landed on my third pick. And then CW's Girl would be a horse that I would definitely use with Paco for Compton, like in an exotic bet, but not on the win-in. But I thought the Echo Sound had a big shot, so I'm glad we agree. So, and obviously the 6
5-1 in the morning line. That's nice.
Yes, yeah, and you'll probably get that, Alfredo, for sure. So, all right, yeah, all right. Before you go, let's talk Black Eyed Susan real quick. So from a win percent, Alfredo, it was pretty wide open. There was a few morning line angles that running and gunning didn't have a great at all from one edge, but and then I've did you see that? Yeah, I mean 8-1, and then I followed Princess Allaire, Alfredo, a lot. People at Equine Edge know I saw her at Keeneland with Chris Couples, who's a great handicapper and follows the shows, and she shows up here in the Black Eyed Susan. But what were your thoughts tomorrow and the 13th?
I believe the number 1, Leon in the Dust, maybe will take the lead, probably. She's taking the lead, and if you check her campaign, Leon in the Dust has been struggling lately to win races. But here, she looks like she's going to be at the lead. The pedigree, the GSR is good. So Johnny V is aboard, that he's a very skillful rider. So I believe she's going to be there for a good period of the race. Now, I believe the horse that is getting strong with every start, and likely the winner here is Reply the Sun. She has a very good pedigree. Last time out, she broke last, and Sheldon Russell recovered her in the final stretch, and she was almost winning the race. And now the GSR goes up with the distance, and Irat is riding for Brittany. So I believe RuPaul is winning this one.
Yeah, I think you could be right, Alfredo. I struggle between two horses because I follow Princess Allaire a lot, but I agree with Reply. You can see in the race sim, right? It's fairly wide open from there. There's all that. I think there is a lot of speed there. You obviously have Paris Lily and then Liam Dust up front as a pace square, and 14%. But, in Reply, you can see Alfredo just kind of comes on the race sim and closes with the double arrow, right? So that horse is going to be closing big time for sure. So I'm going to stick with Princess Allaire, though. I did have Reply second. I followed her. I got off of her 2 back, Alfredo. I think she can still improve going 2 turns for coach. Like, she was a nice horse, and she may be still developing. I thought that this race was fairly wide open from my perspective. So, I thought a lot could win if I was playing any type of horizontal, Alfredo. But I put the 2 on top, but I agree on Reply was my second pick. any other thoughts?
Well, the number one I mentioned, Lian in the dust. I believe she will hit the board. I put her as my second option. And Margie's intention, the number one. Brad Cox is the new trainer. She has a decent GSR. She has been running at this level with 2 second places in a row. I believe she could be, and it's the top pick of Equine, Scotty pick. So probably the number three will be at the trifecta as well. So I used 7-1-3. I didn't use the two, and the reason is, first of all, she's a bit irregular, and out of Auckland Park, her races were not good. At Kineland and Churchill Down, they were not good. Churchill Down is a track where it's a speed bias track as well as Pimlico. So,
Yeah.
we never know because Pimlico is a very tricky track. Maybe you are right. I don't like her. I prefer Reply a lot, but I respect that. If she runs like the previous to the last one, she could win.
All right, sir. I appreciate you coming on, Alfredo. Hippica TV. You're always covering Maryland racing too, which I absolutely love. So, any last words before you go?
Well, in the Preakness, I was thinking that journalism uh, had some enemies with River Thames, but today I listened to an interview with Mike McCarthy, and I felt he's very confident that the horse is doing very well for the race because my only concern with journalism uh, is how tired he got after the Kentucky Derby because
Yeah.
in the last furlong, especially close to the wire, he looked very tired to me. But now he's shorter in distance. The group is weaker, and with this small field, I believe Umberto Rispoli could be close enough because he needs to be close to the leaders in the final turn. So uh, I felt that Mike McCarthy is very confident. I believe that horse has no excuses in this opportunity. So sovereignty is not here, so he should win.
Yeah.
6 and 9 are my other picks. If you are looking for a long shot, River Thames, I believe he's going to run very well because goal oriented at this distance, no. In the other ones at Churchill, he was fading at the end, and that's not good. And now he needs to run an extra furlong against tougher competition. Not good. Sandman is too slow for this track. I don't know why they entered that horse in this. They needed to wait the Belmont. Now they're running this race in a track that is a speed bias. Um, and the number 9, Gosger, is a very interesting horse. Has a very good pedigree. He runs like journalism. He's going to be stalking. Uh, I believe her journalism is better. Is a better horse. So the two should win, and the 6 and 9 are the contenders, in my opinion.
Well, you agree with Equinage. All right, sir. I'm gonna let you go. I know it's late. It was good to see you. It was a pleasure to
Thanks
have
for
you
having
on.
me, and good luck, Justin. Also with your bets, and blessings to your family. Take care.
You too, Alfredo. See you soon.
Good
All
luck,
right.
guys. To all the audience. Bye.
Thank you, sir. He's awesome. I love him. He covers Maryland racing too. So just so everybody knows, with Hippica TV, and they like they said they get to stream it. It's gonna be in Spanish. He does a lot of great work. All right, like I said, I'll have Oli or Sky here, so I'm just bringing in great handicappers all over the country. Next, somebody from currently runs on Monday, but runs at a great track on Monday, and they have a bet. It's the late daily double. A lot of times it matches up right with a quarter horse race, which I always love, as many of you know. Miss Rachel McLaughlin, thank you for being here. It's good to see you. We've had you on in the past, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. It's been a while. It was like last year for, were we talking Derby, I think?
Probably. We always do, we do, for this show, we do it every Thursday. Scotty or I usually host it, and we just cover the best stakes racing all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But of course, we're just covering Pimlico this week. So I'm doing 16 races. You get a few of them. You get the Black-Eyed Susan, so we'll talk about your perspective there. How you been? I'm glad to see Horseshoe running. I love it. It has one of my favorite announcers. I have a few. One's coming on later, FYI. But the other one is with you. I love John Dooley. I cover fairgrounds for Equine Edge, and it was just awesome. And I always like Horseshoe. But how are you doing out there?
We're doing really good. We started out in April and with just a couple days a week, and now we're doing Monday through Thursday. Started right after Kentucky Derby. We had a special Kentucky Derby card, and now we're just doing the 210. Monday through Thursday. It's really been a great start. I mean, even yesterday when our Caesars Turf Day got taken off the grass, it still was an amazing day because we had some really good Indiana stakes and stuff. So just really looking forward to the whole thing, and we got Derby and Caesar stakes, and now we're just gearing up for the really busy months with a lot of events and fun stuff going on in June. And then in July we have the Indiana Derby, which is July 5th. It's a noon post. So yeah, we're just chomping away at it. Where did Justin go? Listen, he's gone. I'm hosting Equine Edge now. Let me tell you guys what I really love about Equine Edge. I don't know where he is. Poor Justin. It's just me. Hello, guys. Call Scotty McKeever. I have taken over. I think we're going to start with...
Here, I'll hop on, Rachel.
There he is.
All right.
I'll
go back.
I was just going to start going on my race.
Mr. Mike Saletta, I could hear you. That was really bad. But Mike, thanks for jumping on. I'll bring you in a minute.
I'll hop.
Rachel, sorry that
okay.
I have to reshare. Well, no, I don't. I do have to reshare. Sorry, everybody.
That's okay. I'm good at filling.
You did a great job.
I think we're going to talk. Are we going to talk about? So we're talking about the two before Black-Eyed Susan, right?
Yeah. So
the very one, the Pimlico special, and then Black-Eyed Susan, correct?
Yeah, and then you can talk. Mike's coming on next. So Mike, thank you for jumping on there. But you can talk also Preakness. So I'll let you do that too. I let Alfredo do that. Everybody should get to do that. So so I asked Alfredo, I'm like, are you going to stay on the turf? And he's like, probably, maybe not the stakes because I want to save it for tomorrow, right? Because the last racing and they'll have all the graded stakes on the turf because the weather's been bad. But I handicapped it for the turf. So I'm like, in the last race I gave, they were on the turf too. I think it was race, I can't remember, right before this. And Brittany Russell had a horse there on the dirt, but I totally handicapped this for the turf. One of the things I always do, Rachel, is I run the race simulator with Equine Edge because I always want to know what the pace look like. It's a big field. There are a couple of main track onlys as well, but I always run this because it helps me identify the pace. So, and that's what I love about Equine Edge because for me, pace makes the race. And I'm kind of a pace and class player, but I learned that from Scotty. I've pretty much
I am too. Scotty taught me that too.
So there is obviously some speed here, and we have our own pace figure, so you can see that. And turf David Harrison, I'm having on later, 2022 NHC winner, Rachel, and he always talks about turf sprints are so difficult. It's one of the tougher races to handicap. But what were your thoughts here?
If you're talking, pace or whatever, this is one of those races. It is the morning line. Are there any scratches, by the way? I didn't get to ask you that. Do we know any early anything from here, or we're gonna pretend that this is
I haven't seen.
We're just gonna go. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna go on what we know. Okay. So obviously, the 3 you just can't leave out that on. I love the Brisnet numbers. You know what I love about Brisnet is that there are so many things to love, or Equine Edge. There are so many things to love about Equine Edge. You like the pace number, you like the pace projection, the race simulator. I like when I'm going as a track analyst, right? Like you've got to fill and do an entire paddock show about a maiden 2-year-old race babies that have never ran before. And you can only look up pedigree for so long. And pedigree only matters, some of the time. That just because your sire was a turf horse, yeah, you might, more often than not that transpires, but sometimes it doesn't. I love the GSR, the growth strength ratio for maidens. But if you're looking at pace, like we were just talking about, I mean, it's definitely the 3 in this race. Kendrick Carmouche, this horse just annihilated all its former speed figures. Now, that was a fast track. You got to go look at the turf. Then you look at turf, 5.5 on the turf, a third back at Monmouth. I mean, this horse has shown some turf form in the past. Should it be 7-5? I don't know, but it's an MTO, so you just kind of gotta, consider that. But when you go look at,
if it comes off the turf,
if it comes
right?
off,
This horse probably gonna be the favorite. I mean, I'm with you. Yeah.
Then you gotta go look at like all the horses who have stellar, turf experience, and the 2 has a lot. The 8, it doesn't. When you're looking at turf horses, it's like the 2 or the 9. This is a non-graded stake. The Loon Cry is kind of who I'm looking at. Flavion's aboard. The speed figures are amazing. This horse has been in a lot of stakes, and has had some time off. So I think that, and then I wasn't sure on a long shot. I think that if it comes off, it just changes the whole landscape of this race. I mean, this is a very, very interesting race. The ones that could draw in will be really strong. The horses that are in, Steve Asmussen's horse with Paco Lopez looks really good. I think those are, the 2 strongest. And then as far as a long shot, I don't know where to go. I'm going to be honest with you. I looked at this for a while. I was racing today, so I looked at it over dinner, and I don't know where to go for a long shot, because any of the other ones that are kind of longer shots haven't done too much on turf recently. So those are my shots. I feel those are my thoughts.
I'll give you my long shot because it's my top pick. It's just my top pick. And then I'll talk about at least one that you also talked about. But I agree with you on the 3 on the dirt. But I thought that Simply Stated could potentially upset here for Trombetta. I mean, face last out didn't break at all, like you can see. I mean, and came up at Keeneland. They cut back to 5, which I think is fine. That horse raced really well, stalking the pace down at Gulfstream Park. Is kind of speed favoring. There's a lot of speed here, so you can see on for Equine Edge, Rachel. I mean, the 2 is going to be the speed of the speed. Obviously, the 4 is going to be a big price, but on the I thought that maybe you could get an outside post horse to kind of sit the trip and sprinting 5 and get a good stocking spot. So I put Simply Stated on top. It's 5-1 on the morning line, and I like plays like this. I mean, it's 11% in a turf sprint. I mean, these races can be tough, I would say.
Yeah, and look how far back. I always say there's something to say about a horse that is so far back that he's only beating like 1 or 2. And he comes back and he's right in the thick of things. That's a good horse. Like, leave all the rest out of it. A big thing about these horses is heart, and that shows a lot of heart.
Yeah, I mean, and she's run well. I mean, hit the board in 10 of 18. I mean, this thing was pretty tough, I thought, Rachel. It really was. But
we don't know what's going to happen with the weather.
Yeah, I did think my second pick was Accomplished Girl. That's the top equine or top Scotty pick, Rachel. I mean, for Steve, I mean, the big thing here, I mean, she's been racing versus way tougher at Fairgrounds and then last out at Keeneland. I mean, she's dropping 10 points in SOR. I'm surprised that her win percent wasn't higher for us. That was a little bit of my concern because she's going to take a lot of money with Paco. And so, but she fits big time here and she could be really tough from my perspective. So
that's what I thought.
Yeah. And then
let me ask you a question. I really am not I should know this. I'll just admit to you guys. If they scratch off of turf, does it just run at the same distance, but just dirt, or is there a little bit of a variation there?
Well, on here they're saying if they don't run it, it'll run 5 on the dirt, and then what
Okay.
happens with Equine Edge, right, is it will just update once that comes through like Equibase, and like it's really
Oh
great.
yeah, it like automatically updates everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. All right, let's.
Heck, sometimes I'll get the changes in the morning, like the early changes, and then I'll get on
Yeah.
Equine Edge, and there's a change that they already have that even my clerk of scales hasn't. Well, but there's a long, there's a time between, so it's not like he's slacking or
Mhm.
anything. But it's just, I'm like, I double check Equine Edge. I'm like, I know this horse isn't gonna run. Sure enough, it's off. I'm like, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it does a good job. All right,
Yeah.
race 12, the Pimlico Special, and now we get a grade 3 stakes. We're back on the dirt. What were your thoughts?
Oh my gosh. There's so many horses in here that I think have a shot to, kind of make a big step. Does that make sense? There's a lot of horses that have been running different distances, maybe haven't gone this long of a mile and 3/16. There's a couple, but they haven't been running against, as good as the others have. I literally talked to Ricky Giannini, Brad's assistant, about this horse, Star Wonder, Windstar Farms, Flavian Pratt, and he just thinks that this horse is ready to step up, and I couldn't agree. I mean, Brad just takes his time with horses really well, and I think that he wouldn't have put him in that horse at Aqueduct if he didn't think he was good. It's a big step up, but look at that work on May 9th. I mean, I just have this feeling that horse is doing really well. And then Pyrenees, obviously, we've seen run. He's done a really good job. He's in the Breeders' Cup, but hasn't run in 20. That's what I'm saying. There's so many angles. He's never ran this year. Then you got horses
Yeah.
never in the distance. Then you got horses coming up. Then you got horses
I
going down.
was
This is
against
just a wide open race.
I was against Pyrenees. Well, I mean, yeah, I could see, but I like a couple horses here. I agree with you on Star of Wonder. I thought you could try to beat Pyrenees. I mean, and Star of Wonder might go off.
I think
as
you
the
can
favorite.
beat Pyrenees too. I think you totally can. I think people are going to get distracted by, the class of the race, but he's not run at all. And his last race before the end of the year was not good. I mean, yeah, granted, it's the Breeders' Club Classic, but I mean, he was wide. It did not look like he was doing well. So I think he's beatable. Who do you want to beat him with? Tell me.
I thought Star of Wonder. I put Encino on top. But I was between the two of them. I don't really have a like. I think you could exacta. Like it wouldn't.
Justin, have you ever heard of the other Brad Cox angle?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Like whenever he has two horses in a race and one looks like the clear-cut winner, why is it always the other one that wins? That's happened in a lot of our stakes races here. I'm telling you, I call it the other Brad Cox angle, and everyone bets on the one that looks smart on paper, and it ends up being his other horse that ends up winning the race. It happens in maidens all the time here.
So my perspective on Encino, I don't think we'll get 6-1. I don't morning line 6-1. But you have, for Godolphin, right? And then the 8 Star of Wonder for Windstar Farm. So, I mean, but I was like, oh, Godolphin obviously been on fire. Like, my goodness, maybe they're going to have another weekend. But, they probably will here because but I like your comment on Star of Wonder. The thing I thought that with Encino, the question will be the last effort. So we'll talk about that. But this horse ran really well. He did last year, came off the layoff at Fairgrounds, won in a 74, was like big chalk. And then, that was a lot tougher at Gulfstream Park racing on the dirt. And that was 1 turn mile. And then they went on the Tapeta or the synthetic over at Turfway Park. It was on the lead. I don't think that Encino has to have the lead, Rachel. I mean, showed ability back here in the tempos. I think that he has a lot of talent. So that's where I went, but I agree with Star of Wonder. And, the prices are going to be pretty different. So, hey, Flatter. Hey, Chris Mack. Oh, Pyrenees is scratching. You should, Rachel. This is
Oh
the great.
yeah,
This is the great part of the Equine Edge community. People in the
I
chat.
know. I love
People in
it.
the chat will just tell you what's happening. So, Chris, I appreciate you doing that. But I agree with you on Star of Wonder. It's between one of those for me.
Yeah, and have you seen Brad? So another thing that I always look at is like, okay, mine is the Windstar horse is 6 months off. Encino's only been off one of these little short couple
Yeah.
months layoffs. He's out of 729 starts. So obviously it's a high percentage because it's Brad. But do you know how crazy 24% win clip off of a 55-day like a 3 month less layoff is, and 58% of the money. Like you could literally put
Yeah.
$100 across the board and you've a 60% chance of this horse, or $20 across the board, 60% chance of this horse hitting the top three. I mean, yeah. Encino Man, I think, is the safe bet. I would in this race just do like a freaking Brad Cox exacta.
I think the only other horse, San Siro, I thought that this horse, the Equine Edge, like you could get like the straight try, you could flip stuff around. I thought that the 10 was the long shot, and it showed up as the long shot. Brendan Walsh, Louis Saez, we talked about Louis a couple races back, should appreciate all the extra ground. Yeah. I mean, ran last out at Keeneland, and Ben Ali ran second. That was a lot easier than this, though, Rachel. That showed up as a 62, where Star of Wonder was coming from 70 allowance. So even though the Ben Ali was a grade 3 over at Keeneland, the allowance races from Star of Wonder come back a lot stronger, Rachel, in New York and Churchill Downs. That's how our strength of race works. So I thought that San Siro at that price still could run well, but I really liked Encino and Star of Wonder on top. But that was my long shot.
Yeah, I like your long shot. Now that I look at it, I like it a lot. And that second place finish last time out was at excuse me, was at the distance of today.
Yeah.
And that race, that was the first time that horse had ran off Lasix in over 2 years, and it still ran second.
Oh wow. Yeah, you're right. Yes. All right, let's keep going. We're going to talk the big day tomorrow, at least, for the 3-year-old fillies, Rachel, the Black-Eyed Susan. So I've followed a horse in this race for quite a while.
You go first. I want to hear what you think about this race first.
Okay, no, that's fine. And so some of you heard this, so I won't spend too much time. But I followed her for a long time, and then I didn't bet her, and she won, and I was like, oh my gosh. And we were on a show, and I'm like, of course it works like that. So yeah. I think she has a big shot. I really like 2 horses. Princess Allaire is the horse, Rachel. I mean, I followed her a lot. I watched her debut at Keeneland in the paddock, and Chris Couples, he's a great handicapper, friend of the show. I was trying to have him on, but he had to go to his Dodgers graduations tonight. But we followed her.
Congratulations to them.
Say again?
I said congratulations to her.
I know, right? And we've, followed her, and I didn't bet her when she won 2 back. I mean, she really have to improve, but we're at like a tough track here at Pimlico, comes in from Oakland, didn't run at Churchill. I just tossed that race. And I just thought she could be on the improve. And versus this group, I thought at a price, and then Reply was the other one. It's the second pick. And, Brittany Russell, I rad rides. Sheldon's not riding. I rad riding. And
oh God, Brittany's so hot right now too, everywhere.
So, Rapoi's, is this Rapoi? Yeah. And, I thought she had a big shot here. So I like both of those. 3-1 on the E morning line, Rachel, for Equine Edge. And then she's the second Scotty pick. And then my third pick was the 3. So, but I was 2-7-3.
Yeah, that 3 was the one I looked at, but I mean, it's just been pretty consistent, but gosh, she's so untested in this kind of race. But that's, what Brad's known for. He puts these horses in these races and he gets them ready for something like the Black-Eyed Susan, and bang, he does it. So yeah, I don't know. And that one should be 3-1. This just got moved to his barn. I don't know how Yeah, there's just not a lot of instances going off of first time with a trainer with him. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't happen like a ton of times because he has so many of his own horses. I think you're
His
spot
41
on.
at 46% we show. So I mean,
Is he? That's good.
which is and the top pick. So, it wouldn't surprise me, and she'll
Yeah.
be a short price.
I think the only one that you didn't mention that's got a pretty good shot is Steve's horse, obviously, running and gunning. But that's kind of the obvious pick, I feel like. Just ran in the, fantasy into March. I think this is a nice kind of layoff for that kind of horse to go from the grade 2 fantasy to the Black Eyed Susan, given it a couple, a little over a month or whatever, almost 2. And then in some other stakes and stuff, I think she's kind of coming into her own. I think sometimes we like as betters, I'm a horse girl, right? You got to remember, like
Mhm.
they're young, they're 2. This filly's 3. She's
Yeah.
put up some nice speed figures, and and sometimes I'm sure in these trainers' mind is like, okay, let's put her in the fantasy. Let's see how she handles the pressure. And man, she missed the gate. She was the last one out, and she still finished 3rd. Now, yeah, was it by 9.5 lengths? I know a lot of people think, oh, 9 horse field, 9.5 lengths. Well, that horse ran away with it. That was a best of the rest situation. And for, a horse going into a graded stakes for the first time. And obviously
Mhm.
Jose Ortiz, he just won a race here yesterday. And I think that's the only one you mentioned that I agree with you 100%, especially on your long shot. But I think running and gunning would have to be in the mix.
Yeah, and I mean the 5 day we show 8-1 on the morning line. So I mean I'm curious how much money she'll take, but you can see that you can toss the last out too. But in the win percents, Rachel, are like, I mean the highest one is 19%. So when you see that with Equine Edge, it can be tough. But that's why Reply is one, again, shows up in the picks, and then a 3-1 on the morning line. You have Irad for Brittany, like you said. She's, so I'll be curious on the price you get for her. I really will.
I don't know
It's
how it works out at Pimlico or any other track, but you guys is the Equinedge morning line is really spot on here in Indiana. I'll
Yeah,
tell you that. I'll tell you that for free.
yeah. No, it does well. Sometimes you can find value though. We talk a lot about that, like
Yeah. Yeah.
so it just depends. All right. You can, before you go, you want to let me know what your thoughts are on Preakness?
Oh, golly. It's just so hard. Sandman is like such a um God, do you want to say like overhyped? He's not overhyped. He's a great horse. I mean, he was, won the Arkansas, 3rd in the row. I mean, he's obviously proved himself, but I feel like social media has got him like hyped up. I just can't. I hate to
Yeah.
be a chalk eating weasel. I will take it. With journalism, I just think that he is so tough. The speed figures he's put up in the last 2, 108, 102, like, even with finishing 2nd in the Derby, he still put up an insane speed figure, and I don't really know how Pimlico plays. He's going a little bit different of a distance. A mile and 3/16 was he hasn't it's not a huge difference, but anyway, I'm on journalism on top, and then I like Irad's horse, the River Thames.
Yeah.
Todd
Top
Pletcher,
two,
obviously. Yeah, those are my top
top,
2.
top two Scotty picks too.
Yeah, me and Scotty are like this. You can tell him I said that. Him and I, he's still got to tell me where the fountain of youth is, okay? Because when I first met Scotty, has he ever told you this? You want to do a funny story to just close it out because everybody knows too much about the Preakness. Who cares? Funny story. Me and Scotty, I go to California. I'm doing a hit on TVG to promote Indiana, right? And I never met Scotty, and him and I are just nobody's in the studio at TVG. It was TVG then, so I can say that. And it's just me, him, and like 2 producers. It's late. There was like a couple last thoroughbreds, and then he kept me on to do standard breaks. I worked at Hoosier, and when Scotty
Hmm.
told me that he was like 10 or 15 years older than me, I was like, bro, you are lying to me right now. I was like, you're lying to me. He's like, it's my Armenian blood. I'm like, bro, give me the blood of your gods. What is going on? Scotty is probably my most favorite person in all of the horse racing industry. And I'm not gassing anyone up right now, not because I'm on a show. I just love that man. He's awesome. His wife's awesome. He's good people. You know what I mean? Like, he's just good people. And on top of that, he lets me help promote Equinedge, and I love it. And I can't say enough about the product. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, you guys have got to get this. Like the percentages are bar none. So
No, I appreciate that. And I mean, we appreciate like the relationship because you guys let us show live racing, when we do shows, which is awesome. I mean,
yeah,
so we
Scotty and I
seriously
had
do.
we had to get that done. Yeah. Yep, for sure.
No,
That was fun.
I love it. But we'll have you on again. That was a pleasure. I appreciate you coming, and I'll probably see you at NHC for sure the next time.
Oh
If I
yeah,
don't,
for sure. It worked out tonight. We had these like quarter horse trials until race 11, so
Mhm.
I went and got dinner with a couple of trainer friends of mine, and I came back, and then I realized that my AV department was like, Rachel's never here at 9 o'clock, and they took my stuff. So I literally have you guys propped up on a toilet paper roll, just so you know. That's how much I love you guys. I ran in here and I was like, I'm propping them up and going, baby.
All right. Well, good luck this weekend. Have fun at the Horseshoe. You're off. You're off too,
I'm
right?
off. Yeah,
Yeah,
this was my well, I'm salary and I'm the production manager, so I
yeah.
have a shoot tomorrow to highlight the track maintenance crew. So I mean, I'm working tomorrow, but no racing. So yeah, I spent my pretty much Friday night with you, Justin, because I love you.
I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. We'll see you soon.
Yep. Bye, guys. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. All right, Rachel McLaughlin, Horseshoe Indy racing analyst. Now I'm going to bring in one of Equinedge's own. He's doing double duty, which I appreciate. I was trying to, get a show today. I was, trying to figure everything out and had talked to a few people and was messaging so many people. And I didn't want to tap up all the people that did a show today, but I'm going to tap up two of them. But Mr. Mike Saletta, you were on earlier. How you doing?
Good, buddy. Good, buddy. Good to see you again. Yeah, David and I had some technical difficulties this afternoon, but we managed through it, had a good time, and I'm sure David will share a little bit of his story of his semi-big victory to get him into the Preakness Challenge tomorrow or Saturday.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
I think it was horse tourneys.
Nice.
He and I were both in the same one, but he definitely outbeat me. So it was pretty cool to see it happen live together.
I'll have to. Was it later in the show or what time?
Yeah, it was. I think he clinched it the last race at Gulfstream Park.
Oh, nice.
So it's probably, I'd say it was middle of the show.
I'll have to check it out.
Awesome.
All right, we're on to Saturday finally, and not finally. I love Black Eyed Susan Day, so
it's a good day.
Yeah, it is. With the weather, it's gonna be tough, but is what it is. You just deal with it. But I rarely have technical difficulties, and I pulled out my power. I'm like, oh my gosh! But luckily, I was back really quick. I appreciate you jumping in. All right,
no problem, man.
We're going to the first stakes race. There's a race in between, but the Maryland Sprint Stakes, Mike, on the dirt.
Yeah.
I always like to watch the racing. I guess I cut one horse, it looks like, but Booth, a lot of speed, and they have Concrete Glory as well. But what were your thoughts here?
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed in the three races we're going to cover. It seems like there's quite a bit of speed, early speed anyway. Here you can see the 5 and 6 on the lead, and the 5 drop an anchor a bit in the race sim. And if you look at their PPs when we get to it, between the 6 and the 5, both of them seem to need the lead. We can look at the 6 first. But it does show that he can rate back in December. Was it December 1st?
Oh,
yeah.
12-1,
yeah. I mean, but the last 3 definitely on the lead, gate to wire. Won the last 2 as the favorite, heavy favorite, and the last one, 2 grade 3s in a row. So to me, the speed of the speed in the class is definitely the 6. I realize it's kind of a chalky pick, but He's top GSR, top SOR at the distance. So it's going to be really tough to beat him, in my opinion. The only other horse that I was looking at that has any interest to me is a 3 coming off the pace. But between the 6 and a 5, that's where I was going back and forth. Like, who typically, when I see 2 speed horses like that with such a significant pace advantage, you look at it, it's almost 20 points above that 3. So on and so forth there. But that 3's got to win, and a 3rd place at the distance, is coming off a short layoff, is training really well. Faced similar last 2 out, seems to just finish up short. So will he get there and beat the 6? I don't know, but I think he's got a chance to at least pick up a piece at a price. And that was the one I was looking at, trying to come off the pace from behind and try to get some kind of a price.
Yeah. So do you add the 6 on top?
I had 6 on top, 3 underneath, and then there's another horse there. I think you might be talking about the 2 there, Prince of Jericho, the Brittany Russell horse. Yeah. I mean, she's great off the first back. If it is a crappy track, ran in the mud last 7 furlongs at Laurel's, got 2 wins at Laurel. Seems to enjoy the track. Been in the money, 5 of the last 5 races as well. Face a little lesser than what he'll face on Saturday, but that was the other horse I was looking at, so I ended up 6-3-2 here.
Yeah, I would agree with you on Booth, and Oldie not on tonight, Mike. But I have this note, and it says, "Much the best watches the Sprint Star winning the Whitmore, the Grade 3." So that's where I landed on top, and but if, like you said, I mean, there's some other prices maybe underneath, but I thought Booth could be tough.
Agree.
All right, let's keep going then. We're going to skip race 5, great race, but we're just covering stakes tonight. Now we're jumping to the race 6, just the stakes, not a graded stakes, Mike, but the Skipat, the 120,000 Skipat stakes, sprinting on the dirt. There's going to be a favorite, obviously, and a couple horses are going to be chalky. But what was your thought here?
Yeah, I hate being a chalk eating weasel, but that 5, I don't even know how to pronounce the name. Zatlos is the one. Again, another one with top SOR, top GSR, both squares at the distance. 7 of 9 in the money with 6 wins. It's going to be, just off of those past performances in class, a Grade 2 winner, coming back from a Breeders' Cup Fillies and Mare Sprint. I'll leave that up to, just trying to get one for Stevie. Gets Jose, stays on board, and I don't know. It's going to be tough to beat her, in my opinion. So I was trying to look for someone else to try to possibly beat her. I was looking at the 3, One Magic Filly. Another one coming off of a layoff, hasn't raced since December, coming off of 2 Grade 1 tries, finishing 6th in both. It has some back class with those races. Does have a Grade 3 win. Ships in from the West Coast, gets D'Amato gets Flavor Flav on there. Another West Coast, although he travels everywhere, right? But hasn't been out west in a while. He's been out east for quite a bit. So, you add him on any mount, any horse is going to be dangerous. Good Magic, coming from pedigree of Good Magic, and then the other one I mentioned, I think, was Apple Picker, the Scotty Longshot. So I'm going off the Scotty picks pretty much. Has that win, have a crappy race, win, have a crappy race, win, have a crappy race pattern, right? So maybe she's on that positive end of that pattern. Did win at Laurel a couple times too. Grade 3 win here at Laurel back in February against 72s. So another one that you could possibly look at a price, but I don't know if they're capable of beating the 5. I don't know. What do you think?
No. I figured, I thought you would you'd be playing one of your daily doubles and like hammering it away from the last race, like Matt Miller. Like I had the 5 on top with Jose for Steve. So I would agree with you here. It did look, take the chalk and probably just move on, right? Because, and the 3's the top pick. So I think it's got to be between them. I landed on the 5. So, but it was like kind of a toss up for me, Mike. But when I looked and I'm like, well, Steve, Jose, he used him a lot at fairgrounds when Jose had been riding here. And obviously Jose has been riding great ever since he kind of left fairgrounds. He's still riding well, and it comes off the layoff, but could be tough, I thought. So I would agree with you.
Yeah, and I think that's where we'll look at possible double into the next race. But the next race, I don't know, man. I had a hard time. So plus it's a turf race, and who knows what's going to happen with the turf. So
I had Alfredo on to start the evening, and this is your last one with me. And I appreciate you like doing double duty today.
No worries, man. I was in the mood.
I love it. That's great. And we love covering Pimlico. So, so I asked Alfredo, I said, it's going to happen on Friday. And he's like, well, they'll probably take some of the stakes off because they want to leave them on for Saturday with the last day of kind of racing before construction. You have great stakes. So I totally am assuming this stays on. They're going to try to leave it on. I do think the stuff on Friday, we talked about a couple dirt horses because there are a couple, I thought, good dirt horses if they take it off. But what's you got Sparkle Blue, the second pick, and then obviously Queen of the Mud, just a great name. Let's watch the race sim first. It's one of the things, Mike, it's one of the first things I always do when I handicap a race.
David and I were talking about this today, and he and I do a little similar thing, and I think Scotty might do the same. You might do the same too, and you sort by the pace figure just to kind of see what those pace numbers look like, if there's a bunch of speed or a couple, and then run the race sim. And I always like to keep it open, just like you have it, sorted by pace, and then see if the race sim is matching up with those pace figures too, because sometimes you see an oddball where you might have a lower pace figure, but the race sim has it forwardly placed, and I always like to keep an eye on that, right? Then I go back to the PPs. If I see a pace number that's say lower than the top pace numbers, yet the race sim has them forwardly placed, usually sometimes as an indicator that they're tactical, and and a lot of times it lines up that way. And I might have found that here. Going through my notes because I know there was a tactical horse here, and I'll go through it here as we pick apart some of these horses. But I had a hard time with this one, to be quite honest with you, because I had like 4 or 5 I think could win.
So when I face races like that, though, then I just I also look at the picks, right? And but from a pace perspective, the 4 is going to show speed, but it's dropping in GSR pretty a lot on the cutback. I mean, comes out of Kentucky Downs, and Ed Moger, comes out of Golden Gate, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I didn't. 8%. It wasn't for me, but there's a lot of speed that she has. But you also have Queen of the Mud up here. I was looking for somebody off the pace, Mike. So for me, I was looking around like Austere, Way to Marie, Sparkle Blue. I just thought that maybe from, should be able to get a good stocking trip on the turf. Yeah. You have a horse like Ocean Club that, at the stretch is right there. And then, the wire is like wide open. And so I don't disagree with you. Wide open. I thought it was a wide open race. Obviously, you can cut the 5. a lot could happen here. But that's where I was looking. You have Austere for Brandon Walsh and Brad, comes off the synthetic and from Kentucky, and then now drops into a turf race. It's like fairly wide open.
Yeah,
this is where I landed, man. Like, it didn't win either one of these 68s, but I thought this shows up as a 74. But that's where I landed, Mike, for me. But my second pick was Sparkle Blue. I mean, it's the second Scotty pick. These were much tougher races, but didn't win that last out. Obviously, burned some money at Laurel going 8, but it gets back to 8.5. But I liked Austere here. That's where I landed on top.
Yeah, it's a tree. I didn't know what to do with that 6, and that was the puzzling horse for me. And to be quite honest with you, because I didn't know what to do with it, I left it off of the 5 horses I was debating about.
Yeah.
So real quick, I know Scrat asked about the 9, and I had some notes, and the 9 is interesting to me. It has run 6 times at this distance. It does have 2 wins in 3 seconds, so that just based off of those statistics there alone, you got to consider the 9. The most recent win there at Fairgrounds at that distance against 68s. No GSR change. The win percentage doesn't move too much. Does seem like it will come off the pace based off of that last race, and may sit just behind it. I didn't look at the race sim to see where she will be positioned necessarily on the race sim, but just based off of the pace numbers, she should be sitting kind of way back, and does have enough, I think, to get up. I don't know that she has enough to win, but she is interesting. I think she's going to have to improve off of that last distance. But if it comes off the turf for some reason, I think she does have a better chance. The other horses I was looking at, the 2-horse Queen of the Mud, I am familiar with covering Santa Anita. Oldie and I were joking about this. I think he and I were on the show, and we were joking about the name being a turf horse. And she definitely is a turf horse. If it comes off the turf, she probably won't run, which is odd because of her name. And she has a win to back it at 8 furlongs, second race back off of the layoff from that win. Did race in a grade 3, came up second, had a high win percentage there at 43%. Graham's got a couple in here, right? I think he's got the 2, and then he's got another one, right?
Oh yeah, the 8.
Yeah, he's got the 8, Sparkle Blue. Yeah, I preferred the 8 over the 2 out of the 2 Graham horses. I think you like that too, or that 8 as well.
Yeah.
But the horse I landed on top was the 3 Ocean Club with Johnny V. He's grade 3 winner, has faced grade 3 since then. Actually, that's not the horse I'm on. That's the other horse I was looking at. What was interesting about him is his if he can go back to his previous form and be tactical and his Gulfstream win and his Aqueduct win, I think he has a chance. Who I landed on and who I was talking about at the beginning when you were showing the race sim was the 1. Right, where I was saying how if you sort the pace numbers and you see somebody that's forwardly placed in the race sim, which was the 1, yet his pace number is a 65, which is 10
below
10 below the 4, right? But if you look at his past performances, he has demonstrated that he can win on the lead, he can rate, and he can sit just off the pace, right? Has he faced company like this? From an SOR perspective, no. So he is going to have to improve. But just
most of them are like that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's only a couple that he hasn't. I mean, if you consider grade 3s, how much drastic difference is it going to be between what he's faced? Probably not. But others have been in grade 3s and have won at it. So that's the only knock at him. She should have no problem with the turf. her GSR and synthetic, even though those last couple wins have been on the synthetic and she's ran the last 3 on synthetic, she does have plenty of wins on the turf, and her GSRs are very close. So that's who I landed on to kind of sit that trip. And with Jose on board and Mike and his maker, that's who I actually landed on. Based
All
off the
right,
tactical.
you're on the 1. I'm
Yep.
on the 6 austere. Both thought Sparkle Blue had a shot, and you'll probably get a good price.
Yep.
And big E morning line angle on 3 again. That horse, when you see that, that's pretty crazy. I mean, 4-1 on the E morning line. You could see the morning line, Mike. I mean, look how wide open the E morning line is. And the E morning lines are 3-1 to 8-1, and then you look at the win percents. It's like, wow. And you have this speed horse up here. So it's going to be a great race, though. I'm excited.
Hopefully they on the turf, yeah.
But I think they will. Alfredo
think
handicaps, and that's why I loved having him on early. He handicaps a lot and he covers them, obviously.
Yeah.
So we'll see, Sharon. It's supposed to rain again tomorrow. So this is Saturday, obviously. I know they're supposed to rain tomorrow. So, all right, brother, I'm going to let you go because I know it's late. And I appreciate you coming on. It was good to see you.
You got it, brother.
Okay.
Have a good one. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
All right. As we talked about, we're running a little behind, but going to bring in another great handicapper. But even better, I talked to you. He's like probably my most favorite track announcer. We talked about John Dooley earlier, but they're both right up there. And the other day I was very confused when I was doing the Equine Edge coaching class, but he was at Oaklawn Park, and then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, he's going to Monmouth Park, and I'm doing a coaching class on Wednesday, and we're showing Finger Lakes, and I'm like, Matt Dinnerman is announcing at Finger Lakes. What's up, brother?
What's up, Justin? How are you? Yeah, just something happened where they needed some help up at Finger Lakes, so driving 18 hours from Arkansas to New Jersey, doing opening weekend Monmouth. It's like, you know what? Another 5.5. What the heck? So I went to Finger Lakes, got back today, excited to sort of be in one place now for a while here at Monmouth, and happy to be on the show with you. And heck, it seems like we just spoke a few days ago, the last time I was on, and here we are again. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to have you. And I always with this show, Matt, we cover stakes races every Thursday. The biggest races, we're just talking Pimlico because there was 16 of them with Black Eyed Susan Day and then obviously Preakness Day, which we're going to talk about here. And then before we go, I'll let you chat Preakness too. But they have great racing. Everybody's kind of talking about. Hopefully the stakes races will obviously stay on Saturday. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow. But we're gonna start with race number 8. But I'm doing good. Emerald Downs just opened up here. You were there, and that's where I got into racing. I've only been around it about 10 plus years, but they just opened up. I haven't been down there, but it's a great spot. But I just you do a great job, man. So I appreciate you coming on just to talk racing and obviously Pimlico. And I talked about Booth, so I'm curious on your thoughts on Booth before we go.
Yeah, Booth, of course, very impressive at Oaklawn. And, the thing about him is he's always been a very well-regarded horse for Steve Asmussen. When he was a younger horse, he did really well. They had thought a lot of him. And then for whatever reason, his form tailed off. And they were trying to figure out what makes this horse tick, and they found it, which is going 6 furlongs, going to the lead. And I love that last race from him, even though if you look on paper, it looks like he regressed in the race. But it was a very good run from him because he dueled on the lead. His last couple of races where he got big speed figures, he sort of got things his own way on the lead. This time around, he went head-and-head with a very nice horse, Anarchist, and put him away and held off closers who were nice horses themselves. So I think he's the horse to beat. The question I have there, though, with him every time is he just has such a vulnerable running style, which is he needs the lead. He's very one-dimensional, and when you have that running style, other horses, whether they're legit contenders or cheap speed, if they go out with you and you get a little stupid out there going too fast, sometimes that can really, really hurt your race. Mm-hmm. So that's the only concern. But I just looked at his race on the PPs, and he certainly looks like the best horse in the race.
Yeah. All right. How so that's a long drive. You drove the whole way?
Yeah, well, I stopped in Kentucky. I went from Arkansas to Kentucky, stayed at a friend's house, and so split it up. But it's long. It was like 8.5 hours, 8 hours to Kentucky, and another 10 here. So yeah, it was a 2-day trip and a lot. But we got podcasts, we got music, we got all that good stuff.
Sharon in the chat says New Mexico loves you, dude. Sharon Segura.
Thank you, Sharon. Shout out to New Mexico, all my friends over there. I need to get out there to Sunland, Sunray. I got to check. I like to sort of, like anybody, Justin, you like to check out different places, different tracks. And also just one of my favorite things is meeting people, because we all have this love for racing, so just getting to talk to people and meet them, different walks of life. All these people come from. That's part of the position with me that's a lot of fun, is being in this position where people get to know you and they come up and talk to you, and you get to meet so many fun people. So Sharon, I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, we're gonna jump in because I even was a little bit late on you. So we got the Chick Lang Stakes, Pimlico Race 8 for 3-year-olds. And Matt, we have we have our sim race. So I always like to run that. It helps me kind of understand what's the pace kind of look like in a race. And then we have our little pace figure here, which also helps. And you have, some high pace numbers with low win percent horses. Those then usually for me, you see a couple of them are, maybe there's cheap speed up there. And that's kind of how I start my handicapping. And then we obviously have some of our other algorithms. But, on our race simulator, Faster Gator wins. And then, there's a lot of horses kind of behind. But what were your thoughts here in the Chick Lang Stakes?
Well, Faster Gator certainly comes out of a good race, the Bayshore. And, the third place horse in that race, Pascaline, tried routing here at Monmouth actually last week and ran third, but was sort of an uninspiring third. Maybe he's a one-turn horse, but I like Ancient World in this race. I think he's going to get a good trip. I loved his first race. He was well meant on debut, won there at the fairgrounds, came back, was very workmanlike in victory last time out. And I just feel that this horse, there's more there, and I think he's going in the right direction. I also think Normandy Coast is interesting. He's a beautiful son of Omaha Beach who really ran well in the wet going last time. So if the track does come up wet, I think it's going to suit him. But those are the two I really keyed in on. I think Perfect Force on his best day can beat this field. I loved his race 3 starts ago, loved his maiden win. But his last couple of races haven't been great, albeit going a mile. Last time out, he ran in the slop and didn't have the greatest trip. I can be forgiving of that against a tougher field, but he's had a hard campaign. If you look, he ran 3 times in March, So, yeah, I think Perfect Force actually on his best day can beat this field, but I question it coming from Oakland. But I'd love to see the coach win this race. But I'm sort of leaning towards a couple prices in here on the morning line in 3 and 4 in this race. I think this is a really competitive race.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I actually land on Ancient World on top as well, Matt. Okay. So, cool. And on our morning line 2-1. So, he's got one of the best morning lines. I mean, it's amazing, man. It's really crazy versus most morning line odds makers. And I'd guess for Joe Sharp, Jose, I covered Fairgrounds in the winter. It was awesome for Equine Edge. And, they just absolutely clicked together. Both won the, leading trainer, leading jockey, kind of did really well there. So I'm with you. I was kind of Faster Gator. I do think will run a great race for Matthew Ferrier, but I'm with Sharp and Jose here. I agree with you. And, your comment on Normandy Coast on a wet track, Matt, our GSR figure on genetic strength rating, and you look at Normandy Coast is 8 points higher on the wet, and you can see this horse should love a sloppy track, like you said. Like, I mean, you just helped many EE users if they handicap this race, Matt. This horse should absolutely relish. Like, totally agree with you.
100%. And he's proven it. I mean, he ran well last time. And I think, excuse me, the only reason I think Ancient World 6-1 on the regular morning line is because I think his buyer speed figures aren't quite as high as maybe some of the others. But I think the eye test and just what we've seen from this horse, everything, breeding, human connections, the way he's won, and he's won with more in the tank. I think all those factors indicate he's a legit player, and I don't necessarily think he'll be 6-1 come post time.
Yeah, you're right. My guess, Matt, gonna be 2-1. The morning line is pretty spot on. Like, and sometimes you can find what I'd say is like maybe a little bit of value in the way we look at value. A lot of times is like, okay, you're 23%. So if I can get you at, you need like 4-1 here, essentially, 5-1 would be amazing, obviously. But, 3-1 is fine for me in a race like this, I would say. And you got a similar angle with Faster Gator, couldn't it? But I thought that I liked Ancient World a lot here. So
yeah, I made my own in my head morning. I didn't do the point system or anything, but I sort of put him as like a 7-2 type of horse. So
yeah,
we'll see. I mean, if we could get 3-1, 7-2, that's probably good enough. 2-1's a little bit low.
I know.
Yeah. I don't think he should necessarily be that low, but with the human connections and Mike Rapoli, good breeding, going in the right direction for high percentage connections, that might end up being the case. But I'm thinking 7-2 would be fair enough.
All right, let's keep going. We're going to jump to race number 9, the Jim McKay Turf. And Matt, I've actually been to the Preakness. It's the only part of Triple Crown I've been to. I haven't been to the Derby or the Belmont someday, but I've been to the Preakness. I took that picture there. I was like sitting right in the churn there. It was actually one of the first times I met Scotty. It was a number of years ago. But I was looking through the picture, and I had this picture of, I'm almost positive it was Irad riding the Jim McKay stakes. So, it's that's where we show up here. We have Coppola. Obviously, we show as 2-1, probably gonna be a heavy favorite. But No Name Hudson also shows up here. But Sprint and 5, always tough turf sprints, always competitive. But what were your thoughts here?
So, yeah, I would agree with you. I think that None Hudson and Coppola are clearly the 2 horses to beat. And Coppola coming out of grade 2 races, I think Dale Romans has put this horse in a really good spot to be successful. I like Coppola, and I also like Mattingly, a horse that won for fun last time out at Gulfstream Park on the turf there. Just totally ignore the times of the race. I mean, that turf course is as firm as a golf course. I mean, they're going to fly on it. So disregard the time there. But I'd cross his 2-back race out. It was a dirt stake. This horse is a turf horse. 3 starts ago, I loved his race. It was a little bit too far back, didn't have the greatest trip, and came on for 3rd behind a horse that I'm a really big fan of, XY Speed. I think he's a very good turf sprinter. And if he was in this race, he'd be one of the favorites in it. And I like that confidence booster for Mattingly. I like that he's versatile. He can come from off the pace. We've seen him run on and get a slice. Obviously, last time he was close to the pace and went very fast. So I think he's versatile and drawn outside. Paco Lopez will have options with this horse. So my 2 horses in here I like are Coppola and Mattingly. None Hudson, he's pretty consistent in terms of speed figures. I'm going to try to beat him on the win end, though. If I were playing like an exact, I would go 6-8 box, and that's what I would do.
You know what, sir? I actually don't disagree with you.
That's good. That's
good. And I would say out of a lot of the races, I talked about exactly earlier in the show, this would be another one, Matt. I agree with you. I think you can get around None Hudson. Going to take quite a money for Wesley Ward, and I think Coppola. I think you can beat Coppola. The Mattingly, the Scotty long shot, and that's one of the better kind of. It hits at about 14%, maybe a little bit less. I mean, it kind of bounces around, but it does really well from an ROI perspective. I think that on the Coppola win on the race sim, but I thought that, to your point, I mean, showed a lot of speed last out there at Gulfstream, comes back at 5. I mean, Gulfstream obviously always so speed favoring, but I thought with Paco, I talked about him earlier. He has a couple good mounts over the couple of days, but I thought this was one of them. And he always rides well in turf sprints. You know what I mean? He's aggressive, so I think it's a good trip. And but Coppola is a nice horse for Dale Romans, but I was trying to beat with Mattingly.
Yeah, and I like Mattingly. I think he fits. I think he comes off a really good confidence booster, and I think he'll be forward. I think that's probably his best spot to be, but I don't think he needs the lead either. So seems like he's going into this race the right way.
All right, sir. We got one more, right?
Yes.
Race number 10, the Spendthrift Farm Sir Barton Stakes. What were your thoughts here? It's going to be obviously probably a couple of other horses that take a lot of money.
For sure. And I picked Crudo in this race for Todd Pletcher. First time out, I watched his workouts before his first race, and this horse was outworking everything that was put up against him, including in his 2 gate works. And this was courtesy of XBTV. That's probably why he went off at 4-5. And for whatever reason, he just didn't fire first out, which is sort of uncharacteristic of a good Todd Pletcher horse. But he really turned it around, freshened him up 2 months after that run. And Todd got him going good. Went off at 2-5, one for fun at Keeneland, going 7 furlongs. First time 2 turns, he's going to have no problem going 2 turns. And I think there was a lot more in the tank there. And I'm excited to see this horse go 2 turns because I think he's really going to like the 1.16 miles. So he's my pick. I also like him in this race a little bit, an Oaklawn shipper. This horse was extremely well regarded. I had watched him work out before his first race, and he was working really good. I mean, I knew this horse probably was Ron's best horse, Ron Moquette, the trainer, even possibly better than Speed King. I mean, they love this horse, and he won first out nicely sprinting. He came back routing, went off at low odds, and ran second to Passion Rules, who came back to run third in the Wood Memorial, so not bad. And then I think him last time out, he was on the lead. He got a clear lead, went slow, and got run down late by Instant Replay, who we're probably going to see in the Matt win. And he'll be a very competitive horse in there, and he could very well win the Matt win, which will come up to be a good race at Churchill Downs. But I don't – the one thing with him is I just don't know how far he wants to go. He got his best ever speed figure in terms of buyer last time out, so that's a positive. I thought he ran really well. But I am a little bit questioning, okay, how far does this horse want to go? I think the blinkers on last time did really help him because he was very green 2 starts ago, was looking around. But cutting back a 16th of a mile, I think that'll be no problem because he ran well enough going 1.1 miles. He's cutting back to 16th. He'll be fit. He's got a real fast work on the page too. And Ron isn't one to really work him super quick in the morning. So this horse has always been a good workhorse, but I think he's going to be pretty offensive-minded. He'll be showing pace in here. But there's a good amount of speed. And I don't even necessarily think Crudo needs the lead. I think he can stalk if he needs to. I think he's pretty push button and seems like he's got a real good mind, doesn't really get keen. Him, on the other hand, I think that his best speed is his best weapon is his speed. So those are the 2 I really lean on.
Yeah, they're the top 2 Scotty picks. And, you know, we talk a lot about on this show, Matt, horses that just broke their maiden and coming back to win. It's obviously never easy. That was my obviously biggest concern. Like you have to, and you know, obviously justify Johnny V riding for Fletcher. I mean, you know, gonna run a great race. I'm trying to beat this horse though. And so I agreed with you in the first 2 races. I guess we have to disagree at some point.
For sure.
But
that's the game. It is the game of opinions. You know how that goes.
But I'm landing on him, so I'm not totally disagreeing with you. But I love getting your opinion. I mean, Louis rides. I mean, blinkers. A lightly race should appreciate. I don't think we'll have any problem, you know, going long here, obviously. But it hasn't won in both those races. But I like hearing from other handicappers, really, to be honest, because it helps me. Okay, like, because I don't know, you don't always see that just on the software, you know, and so you add a different dynamic, which is great. That's why I have you on, because you're an amazing handicapper, track announcer. But yeah, I thought, you know, Louis obviously been riding great. McKay, you know, ships in here. You know, it's just stakes race, and I thought he could improve. So I love your comments there. You know, Crudo, I think, has a shot. I also thought just a fair shake had a look, mainly because I was at Pimlico in past years. I always remember hearing, you know, the Maryland trainer win this, Maryland trainer win that, you know, and I remember that happening. So I don't know. I obviously have Jamie Rodriguez, but I don't necessarily know this trainer of Daniel McKenzie. But I thought the 9 had, look, it is our Scotty Longshot. But I had the 7 on top with, it'd have been like 7-9-1 here.
Yeah, and I'm sort of with you with trying to beat Invictus, the morning line favorite. I mean, his first race, cross it out. It was a 2-year-old race, Saratoga. Took a bunch of time off after it, but Brad Cox usually has him ready to run, and you don't see them like progressively getting better in terms of speed figure. It's like they run a good race for Brad, and they either keep going good, or at some point they don't, and they just sort of hit the ceiling, and that's it. And he looks like a horse that it can improve a little bit. He's green. He was sort of swapping leads down the lane late last time, but I wasn't necessarily, even though it looks good on paper, but just watching the replay visually for me, I felt he was beatable here, especially first time 2 turns. And I think a lot of people are on him also just because, he's very well bred by Into Mischiefs out of the Kentucky Oaks winner, Serengeti Empress from a few years back. So, but I'm very much against Invictus. I'm going to try to play against him this time around.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. All right, I kept you extra. Do you want to talk Preakness just for a second so you can give your 2 cents?
Yeah, I'm a big Clever Again fan from Oaklawn, and I try to handicap with my brain. Sometimes you have to fight it a little bit, but you got to handicap with your brain. You can't handicap with your heart. And the fact of the matter is, though, I'm not really biased on this horse. I just think he's a very good horse. First time out, I'm going to tell you my rationale as to why I think Steve Asmussen is sort of giving you an indication he thinks this horse is really good. First time out, he ran in a baby race and got beat by a very precocious Wesley Ward horse. And this horse isn't really bred to go 4.5, but he dueled on the lead, lost by a head, really good effort, took time off after that. Steve Asmussen doesn't work his horses that fast. This horse, before his first race off that layoff, he was working 59, a minute, 48, just one after the other. And he puts him in a 2-turn maiden special weight right away with just 1 4.5 furlong race off a layoff on Rebel Stakes Day, which on these big days, you get good horses running in these maiden races, some of the better horses. And Jose Ortiz rode this horse that day. And I remember telling my friend, this horse must be good if Steve's putting him in on the Rebel card and doing this, not even sprinting him, just right to the route. He's got fast works, wins for fun, puts him in the hot springs, doesn't even nominate him for the Arkansas Derby. I'm thinking this horse is going to air. It's a 1-horse race. He does. And now you're looking at Steve. He could have put this horse in the Pat Day Mile. I know he was thinking about that, but he's putting him in the Preakness. This horse is bred to run all day. I think he's an extremely talented horse. I think he's clearly better than Publisher, clearly better than Tistastic. I think this horse is a really good horse. Taking nothing away from journalism. He's the horse to beat. If he runs his race, he's going to be tough. And Clever Again has a lot more to prove than journalism does. But Clever Again is a horse that should be close to the pace. I don't think he needs the lead. I think he's just been naturally quick. I think he's got natural speed to put himself on the lead in his last 2 races. But he's got a good mind, very push-button type of horse. I don't think he needs it if, for example, goal-oriented from the rail decides to go. Maybe even if American Promise sends. So I'm not concerned. The only question I have is the class. But I think he's a very good horse, and I think he's going to show it this weekend.
Well, I love it. You can see there on the race sim. I mean, shows up at 11% too, but great angles. And a lot of people talked about journalism. So, can journalism come back? That's, we've kind of talked about that on the show. Is he going to be able to come back from that last race with Sovereignty? What did it take out of him? So,
yeah, I mean, my theory is, I think horses get a lot more tired in the Belmont than they do the Preakness. We've seen a lot of really good horses that run well in the Derby come back in 2 weeks and run well. My theory is it's always the third one that's hard, because a lot of horses, I know the Derby's a hard race, but I think it's pretty simple for trainers, especially good ones, to run horses back in 2 weeks, whether they're quality or lower level at other tracks, because they don't have to do too much with them. They run in a race. They really just have to keep them happy. They're fit. And sometimes they're on the muscle to run again after quickly turning around, and they run good again. But it's that third race, if you wheel him back quick again, sometimes that's when the wear and tear starts to show. And if you go and I don't have the stats with me, but if you look at the last 10, 15 years of Derby winners, or at the very least good Derby horses that they thought would run well in the Derby, whether they did or didn't, like looking at Lucky, who didn't run well in the Kentucky Derby, they typically come back in the Preakness. And if they're a good quality horse, usually they run well.
Yeah, no, I love that info. It's absolutely incredible.
Well, I'm glad you think so. I mean, you just think of all these horses. Mind That Bird. I mean, we don't have to talk about horses that won, the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. We know who those are. But Mind That Bird. Mystic Dan last year ran fine off of 2 weeks. There are many horses that come back in 2 weeks and they run just fine off the Derby. So I'm not as concerned as most people at times can get about that 2 week turnaround. I'm more concerned if the Belmont comes around and they're running a third time there.
Yeah, no, it's like any athlete or marathon runner, right? I mean, if you just did a bunch in a row, it's going to be tougher as time goes on. So,
sure.
No, I totally agree with you. All right. You stayed extra time for me, so I appreciate it because I kept you a little bit late, but it's been a pleasure. So now you're headed from Finger Lakes back to Jersey.
Yeah, I'm back in Jersey. I drove from Finger Lakes, filled in 3 days, stayed the night last night. This morning I drove 5.5 hours. So I'm back in my house in New Jersey, and we're going to be at Monmouth for the foreseeable future and give myself and my car a break. So really looking forward to it. And I appreciate you having me on, and everybody watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you all have a good weekend and make some money along the way.
Thanks, Matt. It was a pleasure. We'll see you soon. And we get to show Monmouth Park. So they're awesome. We have a great relationship with them. So we'll be each week we cover. We'll see you soon, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely. We've got some good turf racing coming up, so get signed on.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right. That was Matt and the Preakness. We got 3 left, and we're going to the John race 11, right? The James W. Murphy. Oh, yes. I mean, Matt's so great, really, right? I mean, he does a great job. Whether he was at Emerald when I came into racing. Then went to Golden Gate, obviously. Then to Oaklawn, and also now covering Monmouth Park at the same time. He'll obviously be back in Hot Springs next season. But all right, I'm gonna keep going. My other guest is a little late, or he might have went to bed. I don't know. So, Mr. Saletta, you are welcome to jump back on with me if you want, but you don't have to. But I'm gonna keep it going. So we have the James W. Murphy. And gonna run the race. And obviously, the first thing I like to do is equine edge user, and you have a lot of speed here with Clock Tower and then Mission Artemis. And Clock Tower is definitely the speed of the speed. Wesley Ward, Irad Ortiz, gonna be out on the lead. The 2-horse comes from like way easier, and you can see it's 1%. And Irad may just put that horse away, and we'll say bye-bye potentially. You can see at the stretch there, the 3 does start to back up, and you have the 7 who's kind of closing. Reagan's Wit for Cherie DeVoe and Jose Ortiz, 7-5 on the E morning line. Racing a 74 and a 72 last out, nearly won there, was the favorite in the Transylvania over at Keeneland. Cuts back now to 8, and, raced at Tampa there, raced second in the 72. So Reagan's Wit, top. Scotty Pick has a big shot, and you can see Clock Tower with Irad. They both come, Clock Tower coming out of the Transylvania, didn't get the lead, and then definitely kind of took over for Ward, but then backed up really badly. And you can see here, backed up and didn't get the lead. So that, if the Clock Tower didn't get the lead, would be tough. The 2's fast, you can see, but that horse is cheap. So, the 3 could just put it away. But I thought that you could get somebody that might sit the trip right? You have the 7, the 1, maybe even the 5. So Reagan's Wit as a shot drops an SOR from 74 down to 68. I thought I had a big shot for Cherie DeVoe and Jose. You have Endoronimance. We talked about ground motion earlier, but I saw this source maybe underneath for me, but was a little bit. I thought maybe had a little bit of a shot, and then you have Curry as well, who comes out as a 76 over at Fairgrounds for Brittany, and you have Louis here, raced at 8.5. That was much tougher, 8-point SOR, and then here we kind of tried to sit off and backed up in a 66. So similar group at Sam Houston, and then one over on the dirt where the GSR was. So I thought maybe if it comes off the 8, but I land on Reagan's Wit for me. So I thought that Reagan's Wit, wins the race. Him, Jose, Cherie, if they're on the turf, I thought the 7 horse, had a big look. Not a huge preference. I do think Iraq could be tough up front. That was where my second pick was. So I was 7-3, and then again, I thought A could run a good race, but might be here really more for the dirt. But I thought could run a so good race on the turf. So that's where I was, 7-3-8. You can see the 1 horse, the long shot, I think, but just broke its maiden. So that was kind of my concern there. So, yeah, Mike, you're totally fine. I'm totally fine to do it on the fly. So I only got a couple more. So, the dinner party, in the base number here on Arbrum, tough to pronounce, but Abrar, that's a tough one. But 6-1 on the E morning line, but the from a win percent here, Chicory in that way outside post, but the 5 horse has the pace square, and I always like to run the race sims. The first thing I do, we talk a lot about that. There are some cheaper horses here, so Crabs and Beer, comes from dirt races, Mahooning Valley, much easier. I thought you could get rid of, as well as the 12 horse, 1% drops out of these. So I always do that to try to slim down at least a little bit. You could probably, the 11 here comes from, did run well in a 68 for Delacour. Maybe we'll just leave in there at 2%. But that's where I always try to cut a couple horses out. But so run the race sim. 5 has speed, big morning lines. That's the one thing I noticed about this race. Some of the morning lines on these, there's a lot of morning line angle. Cash Equity, Irish Aces. I'm not going to try to pronounce that again for the long shot, but could be big GSR on the 5, and could, I thought, get loose maybe. So that was one perspective. Tricari, the 13 and that outside post, and then you do have some of these horses that are closing in a race like this. And then you get to the finish, and this race is absolutely you rank them by win percent, Bill. That's good to know, Rob. I appreciate the comment. But you look at this and it's like, oh my gosh. And I wouldn't be able to take a short price here on Tricari. I know that from a price perspective, obviously fits in the drop, comes out of grade 1, drops into a grade 3, but when I looked at this and you see it this wide open, and you go to the top of the stretch and, these 3 are there, this race is going to be, I thought, was one of the most difficult on the day. Divine, this horse is, I don't think, wants 9 furlongs. And that's one of the other things I always do is, if you go here, the GSR drops, I could cut there. Some of these horses haven't raced at 9. You can see who has horses like Cash Equity, Fort Washington, and even Crystal Quest down here, 5%. These horses don't have a lot of speed, but obviously on the turf could be closing. You can see that how they're all coming. There doesn't look to be a lot of pace. And Safi and Jose, this horse raced and hasn't really been on the lead. The last time it won was on the lead at Gulfstream Park in the 70. I thought this horse fit. I thought this horse could actually get loose on the front end. I mean, the 9 might need the lead, might not need the lead. I don't think the 9 needs the lead. And then obviously a horse like Neat, Rosario might show speed. I don't know, but there doesn't look to be a lot of speed here. And I'm not sure that Irish Aces is just going to go to the front. Might. I mean, again, last out did. But I thought that this horse has shown some ability to sit off. So I thought that with Jose on the front end with Staffy Joseph could be just a dangerous angle here as a Scotty long shot. So that's where I landed on top, actually. You thought, Rob, Fort Washington, and we'll talk about Fort Washington, because there is, I thought had a big shot too. And you can see closing here, if they do go too quick, the 10 obviously could get up. But so, one last out for Shug. Alvarado rides, comes off the layer from Gulfstream. Won a 74 and had been facing tougher. I mean, couldn't win back here in New York, but over at Gulfstream ran way better, obviously, in the Pegasus. And then one last out. Small little layoff as they ship in here. But, I wouldn't disagree. I thought that Fort Washington, also have a shot. And the 9 has a shot. Because this horse, if it doesn't go and it sits off, it's going to get first jump likely for Rispoli. Obviously, he's writing journalism as well. So, and then again, the race sim, Tricari, I was trying to beat. This horse definitely fits. Don't get me wrong. But I was trying to look around for a price in just a wide open race like this. So, and I'm curious on the price we'll get on the 5. So that's where I was 5, 9, 13, and 10. I agree with you, Rob, on the 10. The 1 for 41, Mr. Big, in the from 9 from 14. I know that they are tough outside posts. You're right, and also it's and that's kind of common a lot to going 2 turns. So good to know there on horses like the 10, 11, and 13, like you said, to try to beat Tricari in a race like this. So and even the 9 again. That's why I thought the 5 could get loose, like in Jose. Just going to be. I thought it was a great angle to use the equine edge pace. Has a pace advantage there and just doesn't look to be like a ton of speed. So I thought trying to catch a price. 6, 11, 12, Rob, are the only track winners. Okay, there's the 6 there, and then 11. I didn't think the 12 fit, but and then there's the 2% 11. Right back here, but good to know. All right, we already talked Preakness, so I'll give you my 2 cents just as part of the video. To cover all the races, we heard Matt Dinnerman talk about Clever again. Matt, obviously covered down at Oaklawn Park. Clever again. I thought, it's great to hear that from him. And he also talked about journalism and his perspective on journalism. I'm still on journalism. I think journalism, I know some people aren't really sure, but I thought journalism I talked about on, Derby, I still think could come back and beat this group. Alfredo talked about River Thames and Gosker, and I would agree. I thought the Scotty Picks did a really good job at the Kentucky Derby. For anybody who didn't see that, so I would agree with the picks here. I thought River Thames also had a shot. You'll get a little bit of a price. Fletcher and Irad. Irad always gonna ride well on big days. So. That's where it was for me. I'd put him in this order. I was 2, 6, 9. You might get some value on Gosker as the Scotty long shot. But, and then obviously Matt talked about Clever again as well just a moment ago. So, all right. And then, the last race here, the UAE President's Cup. So, in a race like this, I'm obviously going to, and just to, it's invitational, right? Just kind of, they love that they do stuff like this. So you could see some GSR kind of drops on some of these. You also see, 9, a horse with speed, and Diamond Gem A, and it's nice we have Equine Edge for this. And, just kind of keeps keeps going, wins by 4 lengths. And you have a horse like RB Motherlode comes out of down at Texas, was in a grade 266, and then back to back there, finished second both times. And you look at Diamond Gem, from that March 8th race, and they've been facing each other for a while. The 2 horse just missed, but they ultimately over on the turf there, and now they get back to the dirt. And you look at the 9, it finished 3rd, and the 2 in that race finished 2nd. And then you have a horse in like the 4, but if it's crazy when you see races like this, because wins just kind of by open lengths, and you look at some of these others that's been facing, and they just haven't been running. This horse, the 8 comes from much easier, so you can kind of get rid of that. Way easier, get rid of that. A 58 here, not winning, you can get rid of that. And like Moulin Rouge, did race verse in the turf there, 47 GSR. I thought you could get rid of that. So in a race like this with Equine Edge, you can actually get rid of quite a few horses, which is nice. But and then you kind of can narrow it down. You have the 3 horse here, or sorry, the 4 horse WMA Smoke Signal. Again, in that last race, lost by 16 lengths. The GSR does go up, getting back to the dirt. And you look at Gulfstream, did run in that 66, right? And if we look here, ran in that same race, because they're all traveling around, in these President's Cup races. The 9 ran 2nd. The 2 didn't run in that race. It was only 5%, and the win percents go up. The 4's win percent still stays low. So that's kind of how I looked at this, and you look, and the 9 just romps. So to me, I relied on the race sim and the picks here, and that the 9 wins. It's by 4 lengths, so I'm not going to mess around. It does look to be the speed, and I think it's just going to be gone on the dirt, was my perspective. So, all right, that was fun. I appreciate you all being here. Great coverage. Had a great crew today, and I'm glad that we got some guests on this week. And Flatter, so the Pimlico Saturday is the last day of the meet. You're right, because last race before construction. And so you have that pick 6, and there's also some 2-day pick 5s, and only a 12% takeout. Lots of value. So Flatter, I appreciate you sharing that. That's why I always love having you on the chat. Oh, and Mike, I'm glad that you chimed in there. That was in the Preakness. Sorry, I missed that. So yeah, you and I see it very similar. Rob, Arabians, I know. I love that they do it. It's and we've been able to cover a lot of these tracks. Thanks, Rodney. And we'll get a show Pimlico on Saturday. Be a group of us on. I have a baseball game, but I will be on early. Mr. Mike Sled, I appreciate you being, jumping on with me. And I appreciate everybody being here. It's always a lot of fun. I love doing this show because it does well. We cover great races. We can find some value sometimes. Sometimes we find some good bets, even if there's, some chalky horses. So it's always fun to find winners, and that's our goal when we do the preview shows. So thanks, everybody, for being here. I will see you all. Actually, I am going to do video tomorrow for Gulfstream Park. So I will see you in the morning for some Gulfstream Park. We'll talk that for a Friday, last day of the work week for the day job, but we'll be back on Saturday as well, doing the stretch run. Oldie will be on, and lots of guests also on Saturday. So thanks everybody for being here. I'll see you all soon. Chat soon.